A shockingly solid season for the Park City Water Polo boys squad. We talked to their captains about this past season and their bright future that is ahead. Also, where do the four schools in the Wasatch Back stand headed into football playoffs? Brent Martindale and I discuss the first round matchups right now on the scoreboard. While it wasn't necessarily expected for the Park City Water Polo boys team to come in third in the entire state, considering that they had lost 7 seniors last year that were all key players, but somehow this 8th grade team that is coming up right now seems to be firing on all cylinders and making a big change to this entire team. I talked to a couple of captains right now. Hey everyone, right now we are joined by Barrett and Carson following the Park City Water Polo season. How are you guys feeling right now? It's been a couple of weeks, but how was the season, I guess I should say?
It was pretty good. We did better than we were expecting. Like early in the season, we thought we had lost 7 seniors, so thought it was gonna be a bit rough of a start, but we actually did pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with how we did. We could have done a bit better in state. We could have played a bit better in our second to the game leading up to the championship, but that's just how it goes. You have to be good at every game.
Yeah. How did you feel like the season went? We talked at the beginning of the summer, and you were like, it's going to be a little bit rough. There's a lot of things to rebuild with this season, but it turned out pretty well. How did you feel like it went?
I felt, considering most of our team is 8th graders that aren't even technically supposed to play because we didn't have enough other players, they let us have our 8th graders. So having 2 seniors and then 4 or 5 8th graders was a big impact, and we went together surprisingly well. We just failed that semifinal game. A lot of our starters had a rough game, so.
That's an unbelievable thing to think about, because if you look behind us, it's been a while since the state championship. I believe it was 2018 is the year. And that being said, 4 years without a state championship, but you've got 8th graders now that are coming up that are able to compete at a very high level. Is that something to look forward to in the next couple of years here?
Yeah, I'd say so. The good thing about these 8th graders was they were consistent. They came to practice every day. They put in the work. We made so much progress as a team. So I definitely think they can be a contender in the future for the state.
Is that something that you were expecting at all? Did you know that this class was going to be that good, or did it just kind of click with this team?
It's not that they are good players, but they are some of the most determined we've had in a long time. Even the ones that won the championship 2018, 19, and gonna win in 2020, these kids are so much more dedicated. And I know that because one of the older ones was my brother and the seniors that we played with last year.
Yeah, and that's super fascinating, because back again in the summer, you said that a lot of these kids quit after 1 year because it is a very tough, physically demanding sport.
Most of them will play for 3 years and then they'll leave and you'll never see them again.
Why do you think that is? I got to ask.
I think it's partially just from the challenge of the sport. It is one of the hardest sports, and just the amount of swimming and aggression that goes into the gameplay. A lot of people don't find it that interesting when they just get tired so fast and are just getting pushed around by other players that have that endurance or have size on that.
Do you think that all these 8th graders are going to be here for the next 4 to 5 years?
I think so. They were so committed this year, and they have a fun time, and they'll be playing even more in the years to come. It's a bit rough your first couple of years because you're on the bench, you don't get much playing time. But they'll start to get more playing time, get better. And I think, they'll have a great time, and they'll be able to do really well in the coming future.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think they're going to be back?
I think they're going to stay just due to the fact they were playing not just high school, but 14U as well. So they were on 2 separate teams. So they still had a good amount of playing time, just not only with the high level. So now they're getting to see fully what water polo can be in Utah.
Yeah, and that all being said, when it comes to water polo in Utah, does it seem like teams are getting better? Does it seem like the competition's getting tougher year in and year out?
That's a tough one. I would say so. It's it goes up and down. Sometimes some teams are really good, sometimes teams are bad. Olympus, who has not been the best in the past, is getting better this year. So I think it'll probably continue to get a little better if people continue to play it. Like, we sometimes have like a shortage of players. Like, not many people play water polo as a thing because it's not a well-known sport. So it all depends on like the year and like the commitment levels.
Talk to us a little bit about the season, just how things went overall, but specifically in the postseason. How did things go? And again, I mean, you did mention you were surprised, but how did things go overall in your opinion? Were you like, wow, we're like continuing to win games and things like that, or were you disappointed in the end of the season?
So that semifinal game disappointed a good chunk of us because it was a 1-point game, and neither my brother nor I could put our shots in, which is a key part to the offense. And we lost that game by 1, which was rough. But one of probably the best moments seeing our kids this season was Skyline did have a rough game, but the team that won the championship by, I think, like 20 points, we only lost to them by like 4 or 5 points midway through the season.
So that shows a lot of promise also for years to come as well. The future is very bright here. I'm very excited about this. This is all news to me as well. Speaking, going into this next season now, you're all here for swim practice. How is the swim team looking? How are you both feeling as the swim team is beginning to practice?
I think the swim team's looking good. We have a new coach. He's like pushing us to our limits. We're gonna keep getting faster. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great season. It'll help prepare us for water polo. So I think it'll be a great year.
What's more, actually, I'll ask you the same question, then I'll go to that question.
So yeah, this new coach we did have for water polo for a little bit, and he conditioned us more than any other coach we had, like non-stop for a while. So it's gonna be nice to have that pressure put back on us. Our last year's coach was really good, really focused on technicalities, but he didn't give us super hard sets that worked on our conditioning as well.
What is more of the primary focus? Is it the swimming or is it water polo? Which one do both of you look more so forward to, in the summer and things like that?
Definitely water polo. Like, most of us, we're doing swimming to condition for water polo. Like, swimming, you just swim laps back and forth. Like, water polo, you have a purpose, you're having fun, you're shooting. Like, it's physical. Like, I think it's so much more fun. Like, I look forward. Like, I do swimming so I can be better at water polo.
Yeah.
So.
And what about you?
I've started swimming in water polo from both a really young age, but my skills in water polo in comparison to everyone else is a lot better than my skill in swimming. I'm like right on the edge of state for swimming, but in water polo I can go compete with kids in California, Texas, just all over, so.
What does the future look like for both of you in terms of water polo? What are the plans for the future? Are there college offers? Are there anything like that? Any teams looking at you? Any travel teams, club teams that you're looking forward to playing for or anything like that?
I'm just doing it for fun, like having a good time in high school. Maybe if there's like an intramural like group in college, I'll play for them, but not really that like committed for the future.
I have some main focuses I'm focusing on to play college if I do decide to go. But like the seniors from last year, we had 2 kids from this state go to Orange County Community College or something, and they reached out to me asking, because they thought I was a senior this year, so they were asking if I could go play for them next year because they missed playing with me.
So that all being said, you're just about finished up in terms of water polo. But, I mean, for you, the future seems very bright for this team. Can we just get a very, very early prediction for where you think the boys' team is going to be next year?
Next year, I think we got a possibly better chance at state than we do this year. Even we lose 2 players, but Skyline, who won, will lose Tom Diaz, who is a really good water polo player, probably the best in the state right now, and that will just give us a lot higher chance of winning state because they have a lot of strong players, and just taking out the one makes it so I can focus on more than just the whole pool and focus more on their better players.
Oh, we absolutely can't wait for it. You guys seem to continue to develop. It's absolutely fantastic. We can't wait. Thanks so much for the time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, right now we have Brent Martindale here in our studio. Thank you so much for joining us today.
As always, a pleasure.
We have a whole lot to talk about. This past weekend, The playoff brackets came out for 5A as well as 2A and 1A. And so it's a very exciting time for high school football. We've got a bunch of different teams, and we think we've got some pretty exciting matchups. What do you think of some of these matchups that you're seeing so far?
You know, we got some great matchups. And, you know, we talked about the 5A. So starting at the 5A, if you want to, with Park City, you know, they got what they wanted was a home game for their first round. And so 16 versus 17, you got to think that Park City has the idea of an advantage of being at home.
Yeah, I mean, both teams identical wins this season.
Yeah.
Park City 7-2, Timpanogos 7-3. So one extra game than Park City, but Park City gets the nod, the 16 seed, so they get the home field advantage. They're going to be here at Dozier. We're going to be there as well. It's going to be an interesting game. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. Timpanogos has a very, very good offense. They average 38 points per game. And
in a really good region.
In a very good region. And so we're going to see what Park City's defense is going to be able to do. But I think one of the number one things this year has been Park City's defense. They've been able to really showcase their talent. I mean, you saw that at Wasatch week 1.
Yeah, you know, not just player personnel, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but, you know, their coaching. They did a really, really good job of, at the Wasatch game, way back the first week. I think they learned their abilities. They learned what they could do well. And the other thing is their coaches made great adjustments. And so, you know, you got to give them that. But I got to ask you, that injury is lingering. What's that going to be like for Park City?
Yeah, I think the big question is obviously Braden Byer's out for the rest of the season. Torn ACL.
So terrible.
And so it is unfortunate for Braden Byer. But the big thing is who's going to be able to step up.
Right.
And the big name has been Joseph Eldridge. The other big name has been Mason Grover. Obviously, Chase Byer, the quarterback, leading the team. But again, it's going to come back to the defense. How does Jack Stauffer play? How do some of these linemen play? Andy Watanabe. So many different players who are going to be key in making sure that they can stop this Timpanogos offense that is very, very dominant. They've put up some super high numbers. But also, I think that on the other side, I think Joseph Eldridge and Mason Grover could have a great night. They gave up 71 points just a couple of weeks ago, this Timpanogos team. And Park City has a lot of offensive options. Despite Braden being gone, there's still a lot of players who can put up numbers on the board.
I would think the 16 over the 17 shows their schedule was probably just a little bit better, meaning in terms of maybe some tougher teams. And I think that could be their key into what they could do. I'm picking Park City.
I'm definitely picking Park City myself as well. We'll be there again on Friday night. They end up playing Lehigh if they do win that game. Lehigh, the number 1 seed, another tough matchup for them, but they have had no shortage of tough matchups. And let's not forget, Park City was 1/2 away from blowing out the Brighton Bengals just a couple of weeks ago at Brighton. And so
scared them to death.
Yes, absolutely did. It was a fantastic matchup, and we'll see what happens with Park City Miners. Let's move on over to your side of the city. We've got Heber, we've got Wasatch. Tell us a little bit about this Wasatch team, what you're seeing as they get this 23 seed going into the final.
I was telling you earlier, we were talking before, I just think right now there's not a number 10 team that doesn't want to play a 23 seed like this. I think on paper this is a great matchup. Now, not taking anything away from Woods Cross at all. I think obviously they're real good in a real good region, but not just because I'm a Wasatch guy. I really think if Wasatch were to put together a game better than they have the last couple of weeks, I think this could be the upset of the state tournament. I think on paper, again, they are evenly matched. I believe the key will be defense for Wasatch. They have not stopped the run very well the last 3 weeks. In fact, teams have completely controlled them. And Woods Cross does have some good runners. So it will be a matter of if they can make the right adjustments. And then if their young sophomore quarterback, Matt Kelson, can get a game that he had early in the season and that he can get over some of his turnovers, I smell upset just a little bit. The potential's there.
It would absolutely blow up this entire tournament if the 23 seed reaches the second round of these playoffs.
Yeah.
And like you said, they've lost 3 in a row. Their offense has been a little bit off but more so it's been this defense. Can they step up? Can they stop the run? Because this Woods Cross team has a very good running back. This Woods Cross team 6-4 on the season.
Yep.
Wasatch 3-6. But the big thing here and the big X factor is that they have had probably one of the toughest schedules in all of 5A. Region 9 is so tough, and those 3 teams that they lost to in their region are all above Woods Cross in the 5A playoffs.
You're talking about a 3 seed, 7 seed, and 8 seed are the other 3 teams above Wasatch from Region 9. That's crazy to have 3 teams in the top 10. But you're right. I mean, they have to be able to do better than they have in the last few weeks. The defense key, there have been some injuries. A couple of their linemen, one on the defensive side, one on the offensive side, has been trouble, of course, for the lines, and that's where the team's getting beat on the run. And they did have an injury to one of their key middle linebackers. So both of those players, and we talked about this earlier, they have had a 2-week break. So they haven't had a game. It'll be 2 weeks. And so my understanding is some healing has taken place, and who knows, that might be the difference in having a little better defensive showing.
That's a big thing that we haven't really mentioned. All of the 2 teams that these 5A teams are playing all have 10 games this season.
Yes.
They've all played 10 games.
Yeah.
But Wasatch, Park City, fall break, no game last week, 9 games for the regular season. So it's going to be 2 weeks since their last game. Hopefully that brings a little bit of recovery. Hopefully that brings something to these schools that are going to be facing tough competition and competition that on the Wasatch side, people are thinking, yeah, these are big underdogs, but it might not be the case here.
Might not be the case. You just never know. And I think, again, the keys to that are just what you said. The last key, of course, again, that sophomore quarterback, we were talking earlier, I can't imagine being a sophomore in high school, being a quarterback for these type of teams. And he has had an amazing season. Even with a few, turnovers these last few weeks, it's still been an amazing, one of the great sophomore quarterback seasons of anybody in the state.
It's been fantastic. I mean, he's been right there at the top of the numbers for the national rankings.
Yeah,
Crew
crazy.
Erickson has been at the top of the numbers. I know Crew is actually also coming off of that injury. Do you think he's going to be healthy for this game?
I haven't had a chance to talk to Coach yet. We're going to get that tomorrow. But my understanding is he is definitely a little better. And again, the 2-week break really had to have helped him along with some of the other injury players. So I think obviously now the teams are going to key on him, but even when teams knew they were going to use Crew in that little 2-player slot over there with the quick pass, it's still hard to stop. Wasatch just really does an amazing job of making that work no matter what. So if he's healthy, Woods Cross could have a very difficult time.
We're going to move over from the 5A football scene over to the 1A football scene. We've got North Summit. They've had a better second half of the season than they did the first half of the season. They end up with the number 7 seed. They've got Enterprise, an undefeated team. This North Summit team is young, and this North Summit team has had their growing pains this year, but I think it's going to help them in the long run. 1 year, 2 years from now, I think this team is going to be seeded maybe 1 or 2 in the entire state of 1A.
I think the real question, you've watched them a lot. What do you think the keys are for them to take advantage of that 7 spot?
I really think it's going to be tough. I think this Enterprise team is very, very good. Versus tough teams, North Summit has found ways to still be able to score the ball. That's going to be the number one thing. This North Summit team, they're super small. They play both sides of the ball. Their conditioning is going to have to be there. Jake Smith is going to need to find some options. With the option offense, there's oftentimes that he's running out of the pocket, unsure of what's about to happen next, but he's got to be able to find some targets, find some ways to score the ball. If North Summit can do that, I think they could pull off an upset, but it's going to be a very tall task.
You mentioned earlier, and I'm curious about this, the coaching really can play a key in this. You're talking about an amazing, you were really impressed with the coaching staff. How will that work, and what do you know of the other teams?
Yeah, I think this specific season, I think North Summit has learned a lot about themselves. They've been plagued with injury like other football teams, but I think the number one thing that this team needs to focus on is what can we learn from this first round of playoffs? Let's bring it into next year, and let's get ready for next year, because there's still a lot of football left to be played for a lot of these kids. The whole core of this team is sophomores. So it's not just next year. It's going to be the year after that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that. Let's move over to our last team. we've got South Summit. The South Summit Wildcats, the lone undefeated team in the Wasatch back, 10-0 this season, region champions, back-to-back regular season, undefeated seasons. Brent, I mean, this team has been unbelievable.
You were telling me again, you know more about them.
Yeah.
And you said one of the big keys of overcoming is
Beaver. It is going to be Beaver. They have lost. They've lost to Beaver in the past, and they have told me that they want revenge on Beaver because they have been the better team in the past, but they've fallen short. And right now, with the way that things are lined up, they get a bye this next week. In the quarterfinal, they're going to be playing a team who they are likely to beat.
so they get a couple weeks off.
And then if they go to the semifinals, it's going to be against Beaver if they go out and win everything that they need to as well. Beaver, the number 4 seed, South Summit, the number 1 seed. So I cannot wait for that matchup. I won't be there live for that matchup, but if they do beat them, I'm going to be going down to St. George to cover the final game of the season, which we believe it's going to be San Juan. This team is full of talent, and I think the number one thing is KLB Thompson, the number 1 wide receiver in all of 2A, is going to be back. Everyone thought that he had broken his ankle a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
He ended up not breaking his ankle. He's okay. He sprained it. He's doing a lot of physical therapy, and he's going to be back for that quarterfinal game.
And sometimes revenge is the key, right? It sometimes can tear teams down because they overthink it. But boy, sometimes revenge can be or at least that we've got to beat them sort of thing. That can sometimes really topple good teams. So
yeah, it'll be Delta versus Millard to see who South Summit faces. But right now, they do seem like the number 1 team in all of 2A.
some sports, if you have a 2-week layoff, it kind of throws them out of rhythm. It sounds like that's not going to be the case with this team. If they've been strong and need a little break, that 2-week break could really, really help them.
But I talked to Coach Roof here, and this is his first season as the coach. He sat in that exact chair right at the beginning of the season, and he said, I want to make this team special. I want to make something great out of this team. The movie Remember the Titans. Whenever I am at a South Summit football game, I feel like I'm watching Remember the Titans.
Oh, cool.
It's unbelievable to watch these kids come together, play the way that they do. They are just and they're so tightly knit. The coaching staff is so tightly knit. They all have this system. And for it to just be a 2A high school football program, I mean, they are so well run, and I'm so excited to see what they do. And who knows?
Awesome.
Hopefully they have a 2A football trophy at the end of the season.
Well, you know, that is sounds like a lot of hard work, and they deserve it. So best wishes to them.
Well, we absolutely can't wait for it. I think Park City gets the win. I think South Summit gets the win in a couple of weeks. I think Wasatch has a really, really good chance.
Yeah, you know, it will be really interesting to see. I'm going to have to pick Woods Cross, but, you know, maybe that's the last key they need is just a little extra motivation.
Well, we absolutely can't wait for it. Thank you so much for watching. Brent's going to be at the Wasatch game on Friday. I will be at Park City, and we're going to have a whole lot more coming up in the next couple of weeks here. Brent, thank you so much for the time.
Awesome. Great job.
Appreciate it. Hey, thank you so much for watching today. On Tuesday, we've got first-round football playoff reactions and updates and news about everything that happens here on Friday night. We've also got Wasatch volleyball, as well as a whole lot more. For Brent Martindale and the entire Scoreboard team, I am Blake O'Rourke, and we will see you all next time.